皆さんこんばんは。GBN チャンネルにようこそ。新年1回目の配信となりますが、皆さんいかがお過ごしでしょうか。今年はいよいよですね、2024年ということで、バスケでいうと、パリオリンピックがあったりですとか、それに向けた代表の動きなんかも、だんだん出てきているのかなというふうに思います。はい、で、今日はですね、配信という形ではあるんですけれども、新しい番組ということで、GBN ワールドという企画をスタートさせました。この GBN ワールドはですね、日本から世界に挑戦するバスケ業界人の方々を応援するためにですね、海外のバスケ事情だったりとか、海外のバスケ留学に役立つ情報っていうのを今後お届けしていきたいなというふうに思っております。そしてですね、その海外ネタっていうことで言うと、今日はかなり大きいニュースがあったかなと思います。今、大学生で、アメリカのネブラスカ大に所属する富永啓生選手が、チームとしてですね、今年の全米ナンバーワンチームですね、今ランキングで1位に来ているパーデュー大学というところに勝利したということで、大アップセットということで、今バスケ界結構盛り上がってるなというふうに思います。富永選手も大活躍しましたね。彼のようにですね、日本から出ていって海外で活躍するっていう選手ですね、富永選手に限らず今いろんな、国地域で、実は出てきているというところで、なんか個人でVlog で発信されていたりとか、そういう方も増えてきていると思うんですけれども、実はですね、私たちエルピスでもそういった、バスケ留学をしたいという人たちの支援というのをコンサルティングという形でやっていますと。で、今日はですね、そのコンサルティングについてですね、一緒にそのパートナーシップを組んでやっている東京サムライという、いわゆるクラブチーム、マッチクラブの、チームが東京にあるんですけれども、そこで、チームの立ち上げから、コーチをまでやっているですね、クリス・シーセンさんという方にですね、昨年になるんですかね、2023年の4月に、当社の代表東堂が、インタビューした映像っていうのを今日、お届けしたいなというふうに思っております。で、内容としてはですね、大体1時間くらいなのかなと思うんですけれども、海外挑戦に興味を持っている方に向けてですね、アメリカのバスケシーンがどういうふうになっているかっていうところをですね、クリスさんにですね、解説いただくというふうになっています。今日はちょっとインタビュー映像を流すことがメインになってしまうので、今までのライブ配信のような感じでインタラクションっていうのはちょっと起きづらいかもしれないんですけれども、コメントがあればぜひぜひ拾っていきたいと思いますので、チャット欄で、僕も反応していきたいなというふうに思っています。C 佐藤さんこんばんは。轟にいますと。川崎が勝利したんですね。なるほど。今ね、川崎もちょっと怪我人が出たりして大変なところかなと思いますが、無事勝ったということですと。はい。じゃあですね、早速ですね、弊社代表東堂と、東京サムライのクリス・シーセンさん、の、アメリカバスケ事情に対する、対談をお届けしたいと思いますので、早速ご覧ください。どうぞ。失礼します。ちょっとお待ちください。映像の調子が悪いようです。ちょっとお待ちください。
This is GBN World with Tokyo Samurai Kris Thiesen, and thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so people are not really familiar with what the AAU is in the States. And can you, let's start with describing what the AAU means.
Okay, well, the actual description is American Athletic Union. But basically what everyone refers it to as club basketball. And in the US, School basketball is not a year-round thing like Japan. School basketball in the US goes from maybe November till March if you're doing really well. And then from March through October, basically, is club season. So club teams are able to go out to various tournaments. And in the US, there's almost tournaments every weekend that you're able to go to. You can travel all over the US. And there's also like shoe company tours and tournaments, and there's non-shoe company tours and tournaments. And there's just a ton of teams in basketball that you're able to do as a club. Different age levels. So say in Japan, you have U18 and U15. In the US, it's 17, U16, U15, U4, like every category, all the way down to like 8 and under. And so it just depends on which tournaments that you're going to. But the AAU as a travel team usually starts around high school. So 15U is when they usually start to get more serious about traveling around. Lower than that, they're staying local mostly and playing against local teams. But that's kind of the overall what AAU is about. And then there's recruiting tournaments that are revolved around what AAU teams. So
in the States, you have a school team, which is gonna start in November, probably like October. They're gonna have official practice, and October through like March, like 6 months, they're gonna practice. Right after that, you have this AAU thing going on, and you're gonna travel around and then play games. So, how many games do a school team play a season in high school, and how many games? It depends on which team, but how many games do you have for the AAU team?
Right. So a school team, I would say probably between 25 to 35 games in a season. So you might be playing
in 6 month period.
Yeah. So you're not playing games officially until maybe the end of November. And if you're playing all the way until like a state final, then you're playing into March. And so you're probably playing 2 games a week, maybe doing tournaments. So I would say between 25 and 35. So like where I'm at as an international school in Japan, we follow that same schedule. So we play about 35 games, 35, sometimes 40 games in a season. Because of tournaments, but we'll also include additional games. Like we schedule additional games for AAU on a typical tournament weekend. You're probably playing 4 or 5 games
on the weekend,
on a weekend per weekend,
Saturday, Sunday,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, depending on what you're playing in. So like they had a big AAU weekend this last weekend, which is the NCAA certified, like NCAA coaches can go watch. They're playing 5 games, playing 1 or 2 on Friday, playing 2 on Saturday. So probably 4, and then 1 or 2 on Sunday. And that's just but a lot of these tournaments are set up that way. So you're playing potentially 3-4 games every weekend, depending if your team is involved every weekend in a tournament. Some teams aren't. They only do whatever 1 or 2 times a month. Some teams are every weekend they're playing. So it's a ton of basketball. I mean, it's also a big business to do that, to kind of have these teams to keep entering them into these tournaments. So they're playing quite a bit of basketball over a year. You're thinking whatever 6 months of that, times 4, 24 weeks of 3 or 4 times a week, right? They're playing a lot of games.
Right. How many players are on the team for the AAU?
Yeah,
because you're gonna play like 4 or 5 games over the weekend, and that's a lot of games.
Yeah, so when we play, say in like those certified tournaments, we'll play teams that have like 6 or 7 guys, up to maybe 10. That's usually the max. Sometimes there's a few teams that'll have a few extra, but usually they're playing with like 8 or 9 guys.
Really?
So so like we play a club team in Japan, they're gonna have 20 guys playing. That typically does not happen. So what happens is instead of taking 20 guys, they'll split it and make 2 teams.
Okay.
So an A team and a B. Yeah. So an A team and a B team, and the A team's playing the top level, whatever their top level is, division, and then the B team's playing their whatever second level division. So they try to minimize the number of players on a team just so that there's more playing time for everyone. The length of the game sometimes is a little bit different than here. They're going oftentimes 16-minute halves because high school basketball is 8-minute quarters in the US instead of 10.
Right.
But they make 16-minute halves. So there's no break for a quarter or anything like that. Limited timeouts, 2 timeouts, 3 timeouts. So there are some rule adjustments for that as well.
Is that a running clock, or are you gonna stop
It's
after
stop
every
clock.
call?
Usually a stop clock. Yeah.
Okay. How about, what is Tokyo Samurai? Like, when is it founded, and how many games do you play a season?
Yeah. So we started in 2014. A guy from the US that runs these big phenom camps that had like a bunch of these NBA guys go to his camps when they were like youth, junior high, and high school. He came to run a camp out here at Yokota Air Force Base, and I got invited to go there to bring some players. Dave Taylor, and I met him there, and he saw some of the guys that we were playing with, and he's like, "Hey, I run this event called Double Pump," which was like a huge. If anyone knows anything about like historical AAU basketball, this was a big recruiting event for college players. So he said, "Hey, why don't you bring some guys out? I think you have some guys that can play." So we kind of got things together, and we started that summer 2014 with 11 guys we took. And on that team, we ended up with, I want to say 4 or 5 guys that ended up playing in college, a couple pros. One's actually a translator now for a pro team. But we were getting smashed. We were getting destroyed like 30, 40 points because we just had no idea. So these guys were good players in like international school and base schools in Japan. We took 2 Japanese, we're in Japanese school kids. But like, we weren't prepared for it. So we came back the next year a little bit more prepared. And I think that year we brought 2 teams, a 15U, so freshman year in high school or middle school, 3rd year here, and then an 18U or U18, 17U team. And then we've just kind of started to build from there about how many players we bring. And over the years, we've had over 200 kids play with us since 2014. And we just, like this year, we're taking about 40 kids again. And we'll do them again. Teams usually aren't going to be over 10. So 8, 9, or 10 on a team to get us to maximize exposure. So the reason that we were doing it was to get these kids that wanted to go to college in the US seen by college coaches. So the setup in the US is college coaches can only go watch players at certain times during the year.
Right. It was very difficult and strict. They have strict NCAA rules. Right?
Yeah. And so when you think about it, high school basketball is going on when the college basketball season is going. So it's hard for the college coaches to go watch a high school game because they're also coaching. So they'll look locally about what's around them because it's close, right? 2-hour drive, 3-hour drive. They'll look at the local high schools, but if they're trying to find someone outside of that, it's very hard for them. So they're asking scouts to do it, or they have they call them live events. And in these live events, there's 2 times during the year that they do it. In April, which is the end of the season for college basketball.
Yeah.
And then in July. And that's when they'll come and they have these huge tournaments that you can go to kind of be seen by coaches. So we go to these events, and depending on the team we're playing and depending on the type of team we have, where there's 15, 20 coaches that are watching from junior college, Division III, Division I, Division II, like all levels are there. And it just depends on the event you go to. So sometimes you have to go to the right events, and then you have to play against the right teams, especially for a team like this that's outside of, a lot of coaches at that point didn't know who we were. Our reputation has grown over time because we've had players from, again, junior college, Division I, Division II, Division III. We've had all those levels. So, and we've, have a ton of communication now with the coaches. So I can kind of say to some coaches, hey, come check us out. I've got these kids. So now when we go, we'll get, depending on the team, again, we're playing, we'll get a decent turnout of coaches that will come watch us play. A big thing out of that as well is that when kids are playing in Japan, it's hard for a college coach to measure Japanese talent versus Japanese talent.
Right. Right.
So if I'm playing for like locally here, I'm playing for Jisun High School and I'm playing Hachioji High School, no one knows what the level is. There's no comparison for them. But if I can go and say, hey, I played for Tokyo Samurai and I went to this live event in July and I played New York Lightning, the coach knows who New York Lightning is. And they say, oh, I know that player. I can now measure you on tape about where you might fit in with our program, what level you might fit in with. So that becomes important as well. So it's not just about, for us, it's not just about being seen by coaches or scouts. It's about the tape that they can get that says, here's me playing against XYZ team, which helps, your exposure, for the player's exposure to coaches to know, okay, this is the type of player that I might be getting. Again, it's not 100%. A lot of the coaches want to see kids play live.
Right.
And so like we encourage our kids, you can't just do it one time. I mean, you can, but it's really hard to just go one time because you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to really perform. And what if a coach isn't there? Because some coaches will say, I don't want to see him play live. So if you're a player that's done well, say, your second year, you're Ninense in high school and you play well one summer, now it's going back to the coach to say, hey, I'm playing again this next summer. Here's where I'm going to be playing. Now they can come see you live, right? And that's going to increase your recruiting. And the recruiting in the US has gotten really, really hard now. When we first started doing it, it was much easier because of the rules of recruiting in college. Those have changed, where colleges now are looking for more transfers from one college to another rather than looking at high school players. So that's made it even more difficult, and so a lot of it comes down to knowing the right people, having the right connections with people to be seen by somebody, where a coach might take a look at you because someone has said, hey, so-and-so recommended you look at this player. Okay. And they do. Because, a lot of coaches are looking at transfers first. There's kind of an order. They're going to look at transfers first, junior college, prep school, and then high school, which is, made things harder for, say, our players trying to get to the U.S. So
it gets more and more difficult as the years pass now.
Right. Because now almost all the programs are looking for transfers first. Because it's kind of a known. I know that this player has played this many minutes in college. I kind of know what I'm going to get. As opposed to this high school player coming in, I don't know what I'm going to get. So on a Division I and a Division II level, that's really impacted. Division III, there still is some. There's more high schoolers that are going to Division III.
There used to be a rule that in Division I and Division II, if you transfer, you have to sit out a year. Right. Now it's gone. The rule was taken off.
Right.
So that you can immediately play. So instead of like looking for high school players who's not proven at the level he's going to play at, coaches are looking for players who have established himself in the other teams, in the same league probably.
Right.
So that's what you're saying.
Right. That's correct. So it's easier for a coach to say, hey, this kid from college A, he played, 10 minutes a game and scored 4 points a game and 3 rebounds. Well, I can measure what that is in this league. But a high school player that's played in Japan and scores 20 points a game and 6 rebounds a game, I can't measure that. I don't know what that is. Right. So for them, they think it's less risk to take a transfer player. But I think too, like when we start talking about levels of college, and this is not just in Japan, it's in the US as well, but I think even more in Japan is everyone only dreams of Division I,
Right.
And the type of level from junior college or Division III or NAIA is really, really high. Where some have it in their mind, I only want to go Division I, and I'm coming back to them, or another coach is saying your interest is Division III, and they think they failed. That's completely wrong, because the Division III level is still really, really good. You mean every year there are, Division II teams beating Division I teams, Division III teams beating Division II teams.
Right.
I mean, I think there was a Division III that beat a Division I. Like that, just because of the level doesn't mean it's not good basketball.
Right.
And a lot of it's just finding the right fit. What that school needs. But just because you're playing Division III doesn't mean like you're not playing high level. It's high level basketball.
Yeah. People don't realize that I used to play for Division III school, and I used to go to the Division II Final Four team, and then won by 20. And a lot of people in Japan, especially, don't know, top level in D3. I mean, we recruit like D1 dropouts and D2 dropouts.
Right.
So pretty much like everybody on our team is like D1 or D2 player, right? So it's not, NAIA, some programs really, really good. And at the same time, their school programs is really, really good too.
Right.
So people don't know, and if you win the Division II, it doesn't mean you're going to move up to Division I.
Right.
It's like, size of the school and then size of the gym, and it's all decided by other, things, conditions. So, you have to find the right fit, and you have to kind of know how the colleges and high school works in the States, I think.
Yeah.
So let's go back to what you're saying about comparing. It's very difficult for US coaches to compare the players who are playing against only Japanese. So they don't know how good you gonna really play for, that particular coach, because the competition is different. So how different it is in, Japanese basketball and high school basketball and, high school basketball in the States.
Right. So when we take our players to say playing like an AAU event, the first one, before we even go, I mean, the things that I'm telling them are they're stronger, they're faster, they're more athletic.
Yeah.
I think Japanese players generally have very good footwork. They're very quick, but usually they're small, undersized. So at a Division I level, your average guard size is 6'2", 6'3". Your average guard size in Japan is probably 5'7", 5'8".
7, yeah.
Right. So you're looking at players that are 170 centimeters opposed to 186 centimeters on average. Right. So they're going to be bigger. They're going to be sometimes quicker.
Yeah.
Right. Just a quicker first step. Again, Japanese players are quick, but if you're smaller than the guy you're playing against and he's just as quick as you, well, he's got a longer stride than you.
Right. I would say more explosive.
Right.
American players are more explosive, whereas like we are agile and we can kind of move around quick. But, American players are really, they have like explosive first step.
Yeah. And it's in the athleticism too. Where I'm saying to kids as well in practice, hey, you do this guy's slapping off the backboard, right? You try to just lay it up nice and softly. That ball's going off the backboard because the 6'9" guy is rotating over and going to slap it off the backboard. Right. Or you give up that drive, that guy's dunking it, not just a little layup, and that's what they have to adjust to. I think on a whole, like when we take Japanese players, understanding basketball, a lot of times they have a really good understanding of where to be in space and how to move because they practice so much. Like Japanese players practice a lot, as opposed to American players in general. It's more about using your athleticism, using your speed, using your strength to get to where you want or win a game. So that's probably the biggest difference is, right? It's just the size, the speed, the athleticism. And then Japanese players' quickness and their ability to read what's going on. I would say on the whole, Japanese players generally that we have played with shoot better. Though we play a lot of teams in the U.S. that can really, really shoot. But being smaller, that's always oftentimes a disadvantage. Just for coaches in general. How tall is this guy? Oh, he's 5'9". We're looking for 6'1", 6'2".
Right.
You know, and that's where you see the average size by division of college goes down, where Division 3, if you're 5'9", coaches are going, okay, we can deal with that. But if you're 5'9" and want to go Division 1, you have to be a phenomenal athlete,
Right.
Because you can be smart and quick in these other things, but can you guard 6'3", 6'4"?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to 2014, the first year of Tokyo Samurai.
Right.
So you guys went, and a lot of games, like, you got smashed,
right?
Lost by 30 points, 40 points, and you still had players who went on to university or JUCO in the States. Why is that? Like, what is the strength of those players? Why would, coaches in States recruit them?
Yeah. So I'll speak to the first part about the score. For us, and we say it still now, like, we've been way more successful the last few years, winning games and those kind of things. But we've said it all along. It's not about winning the game. I mean, yes, winning the game helps because you're seen as a winner. Depending on the tournament you're in, winning the game helps because you'll move on and play a better team the next time. Right. But when coaches are watching the game, they're not watching the score. You know what I mean? They're watching the players. And how do you react to these things that are happening? When you're down 20 points, how do you play? Do you put your head down? Do you complain to the refs? Do you kick your feet up when you're on the bench? Do you not listen? Or are you encouraging your teammates, still playing hard? They're watching all of that stuff, right? All the nonverbal.
Right.
The score doesn't matter. You can be losing by 50 and still get recruited because you might be playing on a team that's not very good, but you have one good player and he's doing a lot of the work. So how, for these guys getting there, I mean, to me, it was a ton of hard work on their part. Each one has their own unique kind of situation that they were in. I'm trying to think. Two of them offhand were in Japan and stayed in Japan. One of them I know had left and gone to the States and played most of the rest of his high school in the States. Okay. And there's just so many different paths. So one of them went Division 3 right away, but he was 6'5".
Right. Okay.
So he already had size. He could shoot. And in Japan, kind of what's helped get that mark is he was averaging 25, 30 points a game.
Okay.
That was helping him to kind of be seen. The other kid, he went off to school, really good player. He was probably like 6'2", but had to sit a year in college and work out. And so I worked with him on his recruiting. He transferred schools and is able to go to that school and play. And again, another kid just went to the States instead for his like junior and senior year. So it's always unique about how they end up. We did a video a couple of years ago on like social media about how the players say, I mean, Division 1, everyone wants to go Division 1. And the video was about how did the players actually get to Division 1. So it was players like Rui Hachimura, Yuta Watanabe, Kai Tibbs, Keisei Tominaga. We had our player, Kane Roberts, Avi Schaefer. How did these guys end up getting to Division 1? Well, the way they got there was because they were seen in the U.S. or they were seen at a national level. So if you're playing on a national level in a FIBA U19 tournament, people are going to see who you are. In Rui's case, he was in a showcase game, Jordan Brand Classic, right, where he went to, I think it was New York, right, and played in front of coaches there. Keisei Tominaga went to junior college before he went to Division 1. And that was kind of the point of it is if you are trying to get to this level, you have to be seen. You can't, for the most part, stay in Japan and be like, all right, we're going to take this guy because the last one that we actually were able to help out with was Ibu at Meisei.
From Meisei.
From Meisei, right? And he was the one that was actually from Japan that got recruited, but he also played, I think it was a U18 or U19. And we were able to show coaches, right? We were able to show the coaches the world's FIBA games. Hey, this is how he played against Canada. And so they took him off the tape. They took him off, his Winter Cup highlights and game film.
Yeah.
They also knew that they had this tape as well of him playing on this world stage. So a player from Japan that's going to go, hey, I want to play Division One. It's really, 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 to my knowledge, hasn't been done that you're going directly to Division One from Japan without anyone seeing you, without you playing on some type of stage to say, this is the play.
And Tokyo Samurai has been providing the opportunity to be exposed to coaches in the States. And you are saying, if like, 2年生, the, second year high school goes to the tour with you guys in probably July, and play like 10 games or so.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And then come back next year, following year, with a footage of maybe Winter Cup, and that will help.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So one, they have to get used to the experience, right, of actually going through. And it's hard because, say, like this summer, we're going to go, we'll fly in, we're going to play 3 or 4 games on Saturday, Sunday, have Monday, Tuesday off, playing 2 games on Wednesday, playing 2 games on Thursday, play a game on 2 games on Friday, play 2 games on, right? And we're just game. And it's not like pick up basketball or just like this is intense because all the other players that are there, and maybe people understand, you're playing in a facility with like 30 courts. So on every court, 30 courts, there are 2 teams of 8 to 10 guys each, all of them wanting a scholarship. Right. So there's thousands of kids that are there. And how do you stand out? Right? How do you make yourself, stand up above these other players? So that's what they're going up against. And so for us, what we're trying to say, and the kids in our program as well, is like, we're going to help you get seen, but whether you produce or not, right, that's going to be up to you.
Right.
So if you're good enough, we will get you seen by somebody. But you've got to be able to perform once you get there. So again, their first time going there, they have to adjust to all this. So the second time around that they're going back to that, now they know what they're playing against. Now they know like what's going to happen. And usually the second year they're playing much better because they just know what to expect.
Okay. I think parents, players, and coaches don't understand in Japan that, although you're down 50, coaches are still looking at you, right? I mean, they do look at the players, not the team, because a lot of coaches in Japan, they recruit players from winning teams only, right? So it's hardly someone who is a decent player unless he scores like 50 points for a team that never wins a game. Otherwise you're not gonna get recruited in Japan probably. So that's a mindset that, if I don't play for Fukuoka Daiichi, or if I don't play for this team and that team, and then because I've never been to Winter Cup, I have no chance.
Yeah.
But it's not the case.
Right. No, it's not. I think too, like to my understanding, Japanese recruiting for Japan high school to Japanese colleges, my understanding is also different, where it's a lot of the coaches negotiating with the high school coaches talking with the college coaches about these guys, and in the US, it's, yes, there is some of that, but there's also the player themselves. The player can do whatever they want.
What do you mean? Like they're going to talk to coaches?
They can talk to whatever coach, right, directly. So the recruiting really becomes about the player and the college, not the coach to the coach. So I can talk to a coach and say, hey, I recommend this player. Well, at some point, that coach is going to talk to the player themselves and keep talking to the player. And I step out. I step out of being involved in it. It's now the player talking about it, and the player talking to the coach. And so it is different in that way, where, again, the kids have to be mature. They have to be able to communicate. And some of our Japanese players are in English, but are able to do it, right? Because it's texting rather than speaking.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so when it becomes texting rather than speaking, it becomes easier for them because it's
right.
translator.
Yeah, we can read and write. Yeah, and we can use a Google Translator.
Right. So that's another difference in it. College recruiting too starts early.
Okay.
They're not only looking at guys that are going into their senior year.
Right.
They're looking younger too. Because I already know at this point, schools are looking at 2024 players. Like, we're done for this next year. We're going to look at 2024 now. And some schools are like, we're looking at 2025. So if you're an up and coming player, what we try to do is, if we have like a pretty good player and we think that they're going to project out to be a good player later, we'll send that tape or ask the player to send tape to those schools to say, hey, I'm graduating 2025. I'm this position, blah, blah, blah. So then the coaches kind of get an eye, because they keep these boards, right? They keep these boards of who the recruits are. And some kids will end up on a
2024, 2025, 2026. Right. Okay.
Right. And so they go down that line and kind of start to pick players from there and follow players or not follow players.
So it's been 9 years for you guys. And how many players have you sent to the universities in the States?
I want to say about 30.
30?
I want to say that. Something. Sorry, I just looked it up right here. 23. 30 players in total. 23 in the U.S.
Okay.
So we have some players that stay in Japan.
Okay.
Right. And actually 22 is NCAA. That's not including JUCO. So it's probably about 25.
But, it's not like you guys have the best talent in Japan. I mean, you do have like very good talent, and some guys have foreign descendants and stuff, and super tall or super skilled, super athletic or Japanese. But you guys don't have the top talents from Winter Cup or Inter High and stuff, right? Yeah. So if Japanese players have exposure during the summer, maybe like twice or 3 times throughout the high school years, do you think we have more players who can excel in the States at the university level?
Absolutely. And you're right. Like, we don't always have like the best players in Japan playing for us. Every once in a while we get a national team player or something like that, or that's come through us. But we're able to place our players that are good players. Whether it's Division II, Division III. So, I mean, if a player is really saying like, I want to play Division I and that's my goal, they need to be going multiple times, because there's so few scholarships available.
Right.
And if you're last minute, hey, so say for example, someone's coming in with us this year and they want a scholarship for 2024, it's a really small window, because some of the players have been recruited by these colleges for 2-3 years, and now you're jumping in last minute. You have to be really, really special. It happens. It for sure happens. Like in Iba's case, it happened, right? They didn't know he wanted to go, and then we were able to find out. Now, again, he's very skilled, top level.
Right.
That we were able to do that for him without playing with us. Now, had he played with us, I mean, to be honest with you, he probably would have gotten even more offers than he was getting or going.
Really? So that's really important to be exposed and then to be seen.
Right, because we would have,
the States.
Last year we played some pretty good teams, and say, now he was playing the U19 Worlds at that point or something, right? Like, but had he been playing and he had been seen by these coaches then, that might have been 4, 5, 6 other schools that were like, who's this guy? Like, because he's off the radar. No one knows who he is.
Okay.
And so that could have helped him. I think too, for the Japanese players as well, I mean, English becomes obviously something that they have to really work on, right? There's a certain TOEFL score, certain Duolingo score they have to get to. And so for them, studying in English is important. And I think, for us and the players, the Japanese players in our program, they're learning English. We're not doing formal English lessons, but they're learning basketball English all the time because we coach in English. There's someone there to translate, but you'll see a player that's been with us, a year or 2 years. They pretty much know exactly what we're saying. Not that they can communicate it back, but in basketball terms, they know exactly what we're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, because we say a lot of the same things over and over again, right? But I'll have Japanese players even now. We have new players that came in, and our Japanese players are translating for them, even though they're not fluent English speakers, but they're translating because they know what's going on. Like they understand, basketball English. And that's something for us that we want to focus on later on. It's not something we're doing now, but something we want to focus later on is actually having English classes for our players to take.
Really?
Yeah, that's something we want to do down the line.
Basketball English classes?
Basketball English classes. So not playing basketball, actually like studying English with a basketball like emphasis, because that's the, where kids are interested in.
Right.
But
you have seen talents in Winter Cup. You have seen talents on the national team, under 19, under 18, under 17, and all that. And how many players do you think have a chance to go to the States if they choose to do?
At that level, most of them, right?
You think?
Yeah, it just
they don't. But they don't. I agree, but they don't look at that way because I don't have size, because I don't have money, I don't have experience, and maybe they need to know like our culture and basketball industry is good enough to provide good players in US. But at the same time, like we have to understand the system in the US, and we have to be able to speak English. So that means we have to work on it maybe earlier, like maybe junior high school or freshman in high school. We have to start taking it seriously. So, but this information is not delivered, and I think what you have been doing is great because you guys are giving Japanese players have a chance to be exposed, and like you have been saying, without being seen directly, it's really difficult to evaluate the talents, right?
Yeah.
I want coaches, parents, players to know that, and we have a chance. Like I think 3 things need to happen. Like you have to believe in that we can play at the highest level in the States, one, and we have to have a chance to be exposed, and then we need the right guidance.
Yeah,
I think that's those 3 things we need. So I have a company, ELPIS, and then I provide guidance, and then you kind of provide opportunity to be seen, and then we have to kind of start spreading the idea. Yes, we can play in the States. Yes, we can be a manager for the Division 1 school. And then those people who have been working as a manager, like Takuma Ito from Nagasaki Belcar, Dai Oketani from Ryukyu, Kenzo Maeda from Akita Northern Happiness, and all those people are like head coaches and GMs and president. So, but nobody knew them before, they went to the States. So I want people to understand, Japanese can be successful at the culture level. Like, could be a manager, it could be a players, but I kind of need to spread the idea.
Yeah, no, and I agree. Like some of these players can really, really play. And I was talking to a coach that thought Kawamura, right?
Yeah.
Some of the coaches I've said thought this guy could play Division 1 had he gone down that path. And I had a coach say this guy could have played mid-major, maybe high major the way he plays.
Okay.
Even though he's so small. Now he's an outstanding player. He's an outstanding player for sure. But we've had players at a Division 2 or Division 3 that weren't Winter Cup players, that weren't, they were good and they were given an opportunity to play, and so, I think, and that's kind of what our mission has been with us as a program is we want to maximize exposure for players in Japan. You know, I'm from the US, but I'm Japanese. That's my heritage, right? My mother's Japanese, my father's American.
Okay.
Grew up in the US, you know, so for me coming here, and that's what I'm trying to help out is provide that opportunity for Japanese players and grow the game, because and it's not to say that Japanese college basketball is bad. It's good. It's good basketball. But if you want to kind of push yourself to the limit you can go to, it's like, well, why not go try out the US? Because that's the top. The top is the US, you know, and going there and really challenging yourself, because then when you come back to say play in the B League here, or, you know, maybe be a national team player, things like that, you have all that experience to now rely on, that now you've played against some of the best in the US. When you come back here to play, right, the game slows down. And that's what we feel like too, is when we take our kids to the US as high school players and they come back here, I said, you guys should be scared of nothing now, right? You've played against some of the top players, whatever, in their region. You come back here, you're scared of nobody, because like you've played against it. There's no one that's going to be quicker than what you've seen. There's no one that can jump higher than what you've seen. Okay. So now play, like have that confidence walking into a game or walking into a practice, wherever you're at. So that's what I hope is that it's just to continue to push players in Japan to think about that. Like, right. There's so many players here that could go. And I know, like talking with college coaches, they're more and more interested in what's going on in Japan because they see these players come out now,
the States.
To the States,
coaches in the States.
Yeah, because you know, in the last couple of years, right? Keisei Tominaga's in Nebraska.
Right.
He was doing Yuto did well this year in transfers.
Yamanouchi,
right? And
Kane played well.
Yeah, Kane played well. He was a starter at Stony Brook. You know, and they're saying like, we want to know what's going on out there, because there seems to be these players that come out, you know, and they're able to play, but no one knows about them. And you know, and I helped Yuto a little bit with his recruiting, and he didn't have a lot, but then he played well at Lamar and he had a lot more options. You know, so it's not always where you start. You do have the ability to change. I know it's not part of
plus coming back from States, even if like Mosaku now playing for Niigata, played for Division 2 school, right?
Yeah, but that went Division 1.
And didn't play much, but ended up being a B1 player.
Right. So he was there and he played maybe 10 minutes a game, but you know, and it was a team that was basically a Division 1 team already, and they went Division 1 this year, and they were successful. Yeah, and he was able to come back, and he was in the B League. He's young, and at first wasn't playing, but by the end he was starting and playing well. Right. You know, and so he's had that experience to rely on. He's played at that kind of not a professional level, but physically the same, you know, similar type of level that he could step in and again not be afraid. You know, he's not intimidated by anything or anyone because of the experience he's had.
You know Koki Wiley, right?
I know Koki. Yeah,
he played for D3, and I think he had a chance to play in Division B1 or top teams in B2.
Yep.
You know, he's good enough. So also you play for D2, D3, you can still, you know, have a chance to become a pro in Japan at the highest level.
Yep. And I think, to be honest, you know, talking with some of the pro teams here, they're interested to see these guys coming back. You know, and we do, like for our program, we want to showcase where we have these B League teams come in, and some of our college players are there and watching, and you know, they're interested to see who are these guys that went to the States, because they don't get to really see them unless they have the means to watch it. And now what are they like after, you know, a year, 2, 3 years there, being able to come back? And you know, being at D3 doesn't mean that you can't play pro here. You know, and the level of, again, D3 is still pretty high. You know, it's still pretty high. It's gonna be really interesting to see like the world basketball, whatever games that are gonna go on this summer. Right. Because I know a US team's coming. You know, so people want to know, well, what's the level like? Well, we'll find out, right? Because it's been a long time since the US team's been here. Well, we'll find out, you know.
I have two questions before we're gonna wrap it up.
Sure.
When do you think is the best time for regular Japanese people who doesn't speak English to challenge the states, like for the first time? I'm talking about maybe after the graduation of high school. I mean, of course, you have to still attend the tour and to be exposed and to have experience. But some people say graduation, after the graduation from high school, maybe too late. Like try out in high school or university. What do you think?
So the rules with the U.S. basketball, NCAA basketball, is that after you graduate, you have 1 year to do whatever you want. So a player that graduates doesn't necessarily have to, I got to go to college right away in the U.S. If they have the opportunity to, sure, take it. But we've had a number of players, because of the recruiting has changed, that go to prep school. Or in like Kane's case, Kane stayed here and played professional.
Right.
Or we have a player that went professional and then went to prep school. So there's different options to do that. Prep school, if you're trying to delay, is probably the best because you're playing again in an environment that coaches know. If you're playing professionally here, coaches know, like they have an idea of what it is, because usually I'll call a coach like, oh yeah, I knew someone that played there. But like I said, for our players, we're telling them to try to go as early as they can, because it's just that experience that you get, an understanding. You have a better understanding of your level after you go. So we've had kids as young as 12 years old play on our U15.
12 years old.
12 years old that will go to the U.S. with us. And they're obviously, they have to be really good players to do that, but they're trying to maximize, that exposure time. Now it is costly to go, so it depends on what the family can afford to do.
Right.
But like ideally, it would be probably before you graduate, because like I said, if you best case scenario, you go every year and you just know the experience, and you just do it.
Right.
Japanese calendar.
Would you recommend to go to high school in the States instead of like going to the tour only?
If you have the opportunity to, and basketball is really kind of your focus, yeah. Now it depends again on the high school program you go to, the high school experience you're going to have. That does matter, because it depends as well. What are the transfer rules? Are you going in as a freshman in high school? Right. There's transfer rules. Like if you go as a senior in high school, you might lose eligibility, so you can't play. So there's a lot of different factors. There might be different factors to go involved in that. Like I said, what our players are doing now, a number of them are doing prep school, because of the recruiting environment's more difficult. It just helps them out to spend a year there, play at a high level, play against the high level, and for a year doing that rather than just a couple weeks like we do. But I mean, if it's best case, if you can't go every year, it's try to go like in your second year and then third year. So say, because the calendars are different, obviously, in Japan than the US. But if you went your second year of high school in Japan and then came around and it's your third year, but you're not sure about college or prep school, right? That would give you another chance. And then you could go on to prep school, or maybe you have a chance to actually get signed by somebody that summer. So it's a lot of it's case by case.
Right. Okay. How about this? How can I, join Samurai Tours?
So I mean,
we're tryouts.
That we have a tryout usually in February, March. And we combine it with like a team tryout, but we also say for kids that want to go on this US tour, that's also part of it. But we take on players that want to go on the US tour, sometimes even weeks up to before we leave, because we have rosters of 8 or 9. So for us to add another player usually isn't a problem, because we're just adding more to that, and we don't actually set our team rosters until right before we leave.
Oh, okay.
So
It seems like the more and the more Japanese players are interested in joining you guys. Is that right?
Yeah. So definitely since we started, because they're like, hey, I want to know what it's like to go to the US. So we definitely have more and more Japanese players. A majority of our players are bilingual, so they're translating all the time because they can do it. But we have Japanese staff that come with us to be able to translate while they're there. Like I said, a lot of the players are so used to translating for the other players because they go to international school.
Right.
And so, yeah, they, like I said, we'll take them on if there's talent. You know, we have to be able to see them play at some level. You know, kind of like college coaches as well, right? We can't just say, "Oh, my son is this and plays here." Well, we need to see what they've done or some tape or something. But we've taken kids from Okinawa. We've taken kids from Nagasaki, like from all over. So it's not like they have to be from Tokyo. Ideally, of course, we'd want them practicing with us, but we'll take kids, like even this summer, we take some kids from Guam.
Really?
Because they don't have the opportunity to go, and we'll see them within our school season. We'll see them play. Oh, okay, let's take this guy's interested. We'll take them because they want to play. So we had a kid go from Guam. He's at Long Beach State. At Long Beach State.
Seems like a lot of kids here.
Yeah, that was last year.
Players do you have?
So last year we took 4 teams. I think it was like we had 38
teams.
Yeah, so this is at East Stroudsburg University. It's one of the places we play at. So this is a Division II school. We play a tournament at their school, and so we had 4 different teams that went, and most of them were playing at the top age level. We had one team that's playing in the top division, and then the other ones are playing. We coordinate with the tournament guys to make sure that we have basically similar level play against teams, so we're not getting overpowered or not overpowering.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean,
these
for
are
the
the
kids,
quotes.
so the teams and coaches, and I mean the kids absolutely. I mean, I know that they have a blast, and it's a lot of basketball, but it's a lot of fun. This one is at Azusa Pacific University, so we try to stop at a university if we can, for the kids to see it, practice in the facility, things like that. So that's Damilo Mosaku at Niigata when he was playing in the summer. There's Kane.
Kane's here.
Yuki's
here.
Yuki. Ishibashi. And so there's Kedrick Stockman. He's at Nagoya. With Kane and D and Shintaro Ehara on the right there, who's at Tokai. I mean, on this team right here, the guy on the left played Division. Sorry, go back. The guy on the left played Division III. The second guy who was going to go Division III didn't. The third guy from the left, he played at University of Toronto, which is basically like D1. Kane played at Stony Brook. The guy in the middle, he was going to play, didn't play. Kedrick plays at Nagoya now. Damilola played at Stonehill at Niigata. The guy number 10 right there, he's at Division II. He's at Belmont Abbey. Shintaro Ehara is right there behind him. He plays at Tokai, who actually had an offer at a Division II, and he decided to go to Tokai.
Really?
And the guy on the right played at Clarion, which is another Division II. So that's the level that's on that team right there.
Wow.
So I mean,
that's pretty good.
Yeah. So and you say if we took this team and played some of the top high school teams, it would be a real challenge. Which is to say that Japanese players can play. If this is a group that played Division I, Division II, Division III, majority of that, and then playing against a Japanese team that would play us pretty tight for sure. Let's just say Japanese players could play. So that was the first group. That was the first group we took. Trying to think. Right? No, that one below.
This one?
That was the first group. That was 2014. And I'm
saying, really?
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them played in college.
Nice. They have graduated, right?
Yeah, they're all in their careers. One of them's Mark Burton. He still plays. He played Earth Friends last year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
The guy
Okay.
on the right, second,
Wait,
third
yeah,
from right.
where does he end up?
I don't know where he's at now. I know he was trying to get in the G League. I'm not sure what he's doing now.
Okay. Ishibashi.
So Yuki Ishibashi. I'm thinking that one's
Played for flip school. Okay. It's really nice.
So you can see that that's the type of facility, right? And that's like a secondary facility where they're playing at there. So this is where we're playing this year. So this is like a secondary facility, and in this court, in this area, I want to say there's probably about 20 courts here.
Wow.
There's another area that's got another
everywhere.
15.
So you play game here, you play game here, you play game here, you play game here.
Yeah, and there's another court on the other side, the court that they're on. So there's courts on each side of that. So there's just courts everywhere.
Okay. That's okay. We need a gym like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. We need to wrap it up. Thank you so much for sharing the information, and thank you so much giving Japanese players opportunity. I think what you've been doing is fantastic, and I think more players with success of Yuta Watanabe, Rui Hachimura, and Keisei Tominaga in collegiate level. I mean, I think there are more players who are willing to go to the States, but they don't know how. So probably you know more than anybody how to get to the States, probably, as far as like university, JUCO, prep schools and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So maybe go through the homepage and contact you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a contact on the homepage, or on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, we're trying to help anyone we can. And to be honest, our priority is our players that are playing for us. In the case of some of the players, I'll try to help if I can. If there's a player, someone says, "Hey, I got this guy," I'll try to help if I can. But I say to our guys all the time, the priority is going to be our players. Like, we're going to take care of our players first. And then if there's some talent, like we'll help some kids. We try to do as best as we can, or find someone that can help them out. But yeah, they can reach out, English, Japanese. We'll figure it out, and try to grow the game in Japan. I think it was great that Japan hosting the Olympics last time had the opportunity to play at that stage. To me, it's keeping them at that stage. That they're able to play on a world level. And to me, it's just them getting the experience of playing collegiately at the highest level they can, coming back, just help them even more be prepared to play when they come back.
Do you have any advice to parents, coaches, players who are interested in going to the States in the future?
Study English as soon as possible. I mean, take it seriously.
As soon as possible.
Take it seriously too, right? Because I think one of the things that we say with our program and our kids is that, obviously our kids want to play professionally here. A lot of them do in our program, and your ability to communicate, and if you can communicate in English, only helps you in your career. Because you have these import players. You might have a foreign coach. That foreign coach probably speaks English. If you have the ability to communicate with them on and off the court, as well as with your teammates, that only makes you a stronger teammate, and it only creates more success, right? And if your team's having success, obviously you're probably having some personal success as well. So that's probably, for Japanese players, first place to start, really, because if to be able to experience that, in the US, and you start being serious about it when you're 18 years old, it's hard.
Right. Too late.
Yeah, not to say it's too late. I mean, I've seen some players do that, right? They really had to cram, in all their time. But I think it's the first place. The second place is just being open to the idea of going. That it is an option. You know,
Right.
again, it depends on family to family, financial situation, those types of things, because you can go and play in the US, but you know, you might be paying some money for it, you know, or are
Right.
you going to get a scholarship, or only get a partial scholarship? What is it that you need for yourself?
Right.
Right. The more scholarship that you want or can get, the harder it is.
Yeah.
Right. If you're
But I
willing
mean, if you think about it, I mean, if you get the scholarship in Japanese high school, then you don't have to go to the school in the afternoon. And sometimes you just like practice. And you know, if you go to the university, it could be the same thing. It depends on the university, but still, like, you know, we say there's a word bunburyodo, but you know, it's study and basketball, but we don't do that. It's more so in the States, like you have to go to classes. If you skip like 3 classes, and then you're gonna be expelled.
right.
But if you kind of plagiarize, and then you're gonna be out of the school after even one time.
Right.
So system is different, and I think you know, academics is very good. And yes, especially yen being very weak now, it costs more money.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth it. You know,
Yeah.
getting education, being able to speak English, and being able to explore as a
Yeah.
basketball player, challenge yourself.
Yeah. To
gonna change your
me,
life.
yeah, to me too, on a basketball side, I just feel in the US that the fan base for high school basketball or college basketball is much different. Like, when I watch, like, say, like, again, locally, G-Sen and Hachioji play a game, who's watching? Who's in the stands?
Right.
Not some parents.
Right.
When you play, like, say, in Kane Roberts's Santa Margarita versus Mater Dei high school game, the gym holds 1,000 people and it's packed. There's no place to sit down. Everyone's standing. It's crazy, you know. And
It's
that's
like B2,
right,
B3.
right. You know, and it's crazy because there's so many people there that there's the fan base of some of these high schools, some of these colleges. It just makes the experience that much even more rich, more fun. You are somebody with the college team that you play for. You know, if you play in a college team in the US, you know, it opens up doors and opportunities that you wouldn't get. Oh, you play for this school? Oh, that's my alma mater. I played there, or I went to school there. Oh, let me help you out. That happens a lot, you know, because of the network that you create by playing on that team for that university. I don't know so much about in Japan. I can't speak to that, but I know that happens in the US. That does happen.
That's kind of the same thing here in Japan, but maybe fan base is much bigger there, so it's different. And plus competition, like if you look at the Yuta Watanabe, you know, he progressed so much and he got better so much because of the competition probably. Yes, there's a good coaching maybe, but at the same time, like being able to play against a top talented team, like players, you know, every day, like at the practice and games, that's how you get better. So if he had stayed in Japan, then he wouldn't been to NBA. There's no way.
Yeah. And I think too,
it's not like he went to, like, you know, top schools. Like, you know, GW is a good school, but it's not like Gonzaga or Kentucky or Duke.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah,
you know, a lot of Japanese players can get better by just being there, and they do have a chance to be a college players.
Right. And I think one of the things that really stands out with Japanese players when they go to the US is the work ethic. Because coaches comment that on often, just how hard some of the Japanese players that have gone through the Japanese system, how hard they work in practice, out of practice. And it's very commendable the way that these players are able to do that, you know, and the way Japanese basketball is formed, like, you know, from a youth level. You know, how they sit and they can listen and do all these things. And I think that's also an added benefit, because coaches notice that, like, man, this guy comes in and he works hard and then practice over. He's still working. I see him there early in the morning working, and I think that's part of just the Japanese mentality.
Right.
And it carries over, like, because the coaches love it.
I have a student manager at the Long Beach State, and he was saying he can outwork anybody. American managers, like, he can outwork literally, right? So hopefully he can go to NBA or internship, being an internship. And I've been to NBA practices and I've seen coaches, but top Japanese coaches work harder.
Yeah.
So only thing is English.
Yep.
Yeah. So for our kids to start learning English and using Samurai to be exposed early, right, and fulfill their dreams, like basketball dreams, either as a player or as a manager or as a coach.
Yeah.
That's going to change our dynamics of industry here in Japan.
I 100% believe that.
Yeah. So what you've been doing is great, and I hope like more people will know this could be the option for them as well. And I don't know, maybe like hundreds of people start making a call like tomorrow. But
No, I appreciate the platform though, because I think, a lot of people just don't know, and if you don't know what you're supposed to do, you just kind of give up on it, right? You just go like, well, how am I supposed to get there? I don't know. Well, it's just a dream then. It's not reality.
Right.
And I want people to understand that there is a reality, like it can happen, but there's certain steps you have to take, and there's certain people you have to know to be able to get it done.
So you said March you have a tryout, and then sometimes like it's open until the week before, right? So you are going to the tour in July,
right?
And are you going to the tour in April as well? Every year?
No. So there was one just this last week, and I'm open to trying that out. We couldn't do it this year. It's just something I've been trying to think about if we're able to do. I'd like to be able to do it because it just depends. I mean, part of the reason for the difficulty for Japanese players sometimes is the school testing is going on at that time. In June, July.
Okay.
So it's them working with their schools to be able to coordinate how to get that done. And that's why April works better for some, because they don't have that testing pressure.
So there are more players who are willing to go, then maybe you can organize a trip?
In April, possibly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So please come back maybe like after the tour in July, and maybe we can discuss how it went and
I'd love
how
to
the
kind of
routing
report.
going.
Yeah.
Right. And then maybe like next year you come back again in January, and then we can discuss about possibility of having a tour in April.
Yeah.
Right. So the more exposures like players have, the better.
Yeah, exactly. Again, for recruiting, it's a little bit different in April. Less coaches are out because they're looking in the transfer portal. So there's all these dynamics that go on. But I think just the opportunity to do that, the chance to do that, now I'm playing at my school. Now I'm playing for, Samurai for this, weekend, and then testing my skill, testing my level. Where am I at? Because you just never know. Year to year, we're playing against Division I players.
Okay.
We're playing against some high level players, and sometimes we don't know it until after it's after it's happened. Oh, I played against that guy. We played in tournaments where the Ball brothers were next to us playing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen.
Kane played against them?
No, they were the next court over. They were in our division, but not in our pool.
Okay.
So they're the next court over. We've seen.
Was there many people watching them play?
It was crazy. It was crazy. All the people, all the cameras, TV cameras. Because they were in LA when we were there. But we've seen kids that were. We saw Shaq's son playing. I've seen kids that play at North Carolina and Kansas, and all over.
Wow.
You know, we've played some against not that top level players we haven't played against, but some of the other ones are like mid-major D1 players. I mean, we've gone up against them. You know, so I mean, that's part of it too, is you get to see that and see the level, like how good these guys really are, like high level Division 1 players, how good they really are.
Okay, we need to wrap it up, and thank you so much for coming over, and please keep doing the great job for our basketball industry, and hopefully like, you know, I can invite you again.
Yeah, appreciate the time, appreciate the platform to talk about it. Hopefully get some more parents and coaches and kids thinking about that, the opportunity that these kids could have if they are willing to take it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
はい、以上ですね、弊社の代表東堂と、東京サムライのクリス・シーセンコーチのインタビューをお届けしました。皆さんいかがでしたでしょうか。このインタビュー自体はですね、今日ではなくて、昨年の4月に、行ったものなんですけれども、基本的な情報というのは今もあまり変わっていないところなので、今日お届けしたというところですね。インタビューの中でも、東堂が言ってたと思うんですけれども、日本人の選手はただアメリカに行くだけで上手くなるみたいなことも言ってたと思うんですけど、決してですね、やっぱり全国出てなくても全然チャンスはあるし、あとはいろんなインタビューでいろんな選手がディビジョン1を目指すっていうふうに言ってたりするんですけど、必ずしもディビジョン1だけが、レベルの高いバスケということでもないので、そういった意味でディビジョン1神話じゃないですけど、そうじゃなくてたくさんいろんな質の高いプレーや、自分に合ったバスケットに、触れられる場所があるということをみんなに知ってもらえたら、もっともっとね、チャンスが広がってくるんじゃないかなというふうに思っています。そしてね、私も他の配信とかでも言ってるんですけど、ヨーロッパはあるんですけど、アメリカで本場のバスケを見たことっていうのはないので、やっぱり一日でも早くですね、現地でそのプレーだったりとか、コーチングだったりとか、そういったものを見てですね、触れて日本のバスケットをもっともっとですね、盛り上げていきたいなというふうに思いました。はい、ということでですね、今回の配信はですね、またアーカイブにも残るので、ぜひですね、非常に濃い情報だったと思うので、繰り返しまた、思い出した時に見ていただけたら嬉しいなと思います。そして最後告知になるんですけれども、インタビューに登場いただいたクリス・シーセンコーチが率いる東京サムライですね、来週ですかね、オンラインです。今週の日曜日ですね。オンラインでですね、説明会ということで、アメリカの、バスケットボールの、リクルーティングの中身を、お話ししますというところのテーマでですね、ウェビナーを行います。詳しくはですね、東京サムライの X や Facebook の、アカウントをご覧いただければですね、申し込み方など、書かれているかと思いますので、今回のインタビューで興味を持たれた方、ぜひ問い合わせみてはいかがでしょうか。そしてですね、私たちエルピスも、先ほどインタビューでもちょっと出てきたんですけれども、NCAA、ディビジョン1で活躍している、学生マネージャー、日本でいう学生コーチみたいな感じですね。として海外挑戦している、選手だったりとか、プレイヤーとしてもですね、活躍している選手、の支援というのを行っています。なのでですね、東京サムライもそうですし、もしですね、そういった、選手以外も含めて海外留学とか、海外バスケ挑戦に興味があるよという方いましたらですね、ぜひ、当社のウェブサイトからですね、お問い合わせいただいたりとか、X やインスタの DM でも構いません。ぜひコンタクトいただければ、またいろいろ詳しくお話しできればなというふうに思っております。はい、ということで、今日はですね、GBN ワールドの第1回ということで、東京サムライの、クリスコーチですね、東堂がインタビューした、模様をお届けしました。次回もですね、こういった形で海外バスケに詳しい方々をお招きしてですね、インタビューをお届けしたりだったりとか、 海外留学に役立つ情報というのをお届けしていきたいと思いますので、ぜひまた、次回の更新をお楽しみにお待ちください。はい、それでは、今日はこの辺りで失礼したいと思います。皆さんご視聴ありがとうございました。